Yeah, hi everyone. So so I think let us recap the last session. I think in the last session, so we have discussed like how to work with models. So and generally models are used to if you want to reuse or if you want to use any functions, classes or interfaces in any other files. So then we have to use the models. Again, we have seen how to use import and export inside the models. And also we discussed about what is the default export and aliases. So all those things we have discussed as part of models. So then we discussed about what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. And also we discussed about await keyword. So await keyword should be used for any asynchronous function. So if you wanted to make sure the execution order is preserved, then we have to use this await so that it will wait until the async function is completed. So I think this completes our TypeScript sessions. So today let us start with the Playwright part. So first we will discuss how to install the Playwright. So once the Playwright is installed, then we will discuss couple of commands in Playwright and Playwright configuration file. Then we will discuss about the Playwright locators. So what are the prerequisites to work with Playwright installation? So I think if you wanted to work with Playwright, because the Playwright is purely built on Node.js server. So again, Playwright that module, so that is built on top of Node.js. So basically, Node.js is completely written in JavaScript. So that is the reason. So I mean, so the TypeScript, whatever we have discussed so far, that is an advanced version of JavaScript. So I think there will be no much difference between JavaScript and TypeScript. So there will be a little difference. So otherwise, most of the syntax and everything is same between TypeScript and JavaScript. So the Node.js is purely built on JavaScript. And now, so if you wanted to work with Playwright, so first we need to have Node.js installed. Then we need to have any IDE like VS Code, so then you can install the Playwright. I think the Node.js we already installed as part of TypeScript. So while we work with TypeScript, we have already installed the Node.js. Since we already installed the Node.js, we don't need to install again. So we can go and directly install the Playwright. And also we have this VS Code, which is an IDE for us. So we are going to write all our automation scripts in VS Code. So now let us see how to install the Playwright. So before you install this, so try to create a new project. So I go to this workspace and I created a new folder, UK 25 June Playwright. So this is my new project. So go to VS Code and you can say open folder. So go to the workspace where you created this folder. So this folder serves as our project. So you can select that, click on select folder. So this is our new Playwright project. So now, first, if you want to write the automation scripts, first you need to install the Playwright models here. So how can I install the Playwright model? So there is a command. So npm init playwright at the rate of latest. So this is the command that we need to use to install the Playwright in your project. So this is the project that we have created. So inside this project, I wanted to set up the Playwright. So we just use this command, say npm init playwright at the rate of latest. So let us run this. So once you run this command, it will install the Playwright automatically, and it also generates the project structure for the Playwright. So as soon as you run this command, so it is showing an option npx create playwright. So what is this npx playwright create playwright? So this is a model which will take care of a playwright project structure, because I don't want to create manually the folder structures for the playwright project, because when I run this npm init playwright at the rate of latest, so as soon as you run this, so there is another model create playwright. This is get invoked. the role of this create playwright module is to create a defined structure for your playwright project. So this is going to take care of the creation of the project structure. So once this step is passed, then it is asking whether you want to work with Playwright with TypeScript or JavaScript. Since we are working with Playwright with TypeScript, you can select the first option, click on enter. Yeah, then so once the programming language has been selected, the next step that is asking is where do you put your end-to-end tests. So basically here, if you want, you can give your own folder name. But generally, it is preferred to have this test folder, or if you wanted to use end-to-end, like you can use anything here. But by default, we wanted to place all our end-to-end test cases in the test folder. So you can leave this as is and click on enter. So then it is asking for another option. So add a GitHub Actions workflow. So this, what is this GitHub Actions workflow? So this is a workflow file which is used to achieve the CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous development. Because generally, so whenever a new code is deployed, let's say you want to run your test cases, so those kind of configurations can be done in the GitHub Actions workflow files. I think this we can discuss after the playwright sessions where we are going to discuss about CI/CD. For now, you can keep this as true or false, anything is fine. So if you keep this as true, it will generate the GitHub workflow actions file workflow file. If you keep no, it will not generate any GitHub actions workflow file. So anyway, yeah, I want to generate that. I just kept true. Click on enter. So now install Playwright browsers can be done manually via npx Playwright install. So what is this install Playwright browsers? I think if you remember during our demo sessions, we discussed that whenever you install the Playwright, along with the Playwright, we also get the browser bindings with respect to that Playwright version. Same is the case here. Because whenever you install a particular version of the Playwright, say along with the Playwright, you will also get the specific browser bindings. Suppose if I install the same Playwright on a different machine, there also will get the same set of browser bindings. So what is the advantage of these browser bindings? Because whenever you use the same version of the Playwright across the missions, you can have the same set of browser bindings. So which will make sure that you are running on the same set of browsers on particular version of the Playwright. So that is why usually we prefer to have this browser bindings installed. So you can select this as true, click on enter. So now it is going to create the project structure. Along with that, so you can see here it is installing the Playwright modules. So after that, it will install the browser bindings. So it is downloading the browser bindings. Yeah, I think it already did. So now it has generated a default structure for your Playwright project. So here you can see there is a playwright config.ts. So this is the playwright configuration file. Then the package.json, so which will contain what version of playwright we have used. So here we have used playwright version 1.61.1. So now let's say in any other mission, you install the same version of the playwright, then you are going to get the same set of browser bindings. So that means these browser bindings are going to be same across different missions when you install the same version of the Playwright. So that is the advantage because whenever you run on a different browser or in a different mission, still it will run the same browser bindings. Then your test will be executed on the same browser bindings. So,
So,
yeah.
what if we want to work with the Java and other languages, because this is asking only for the either TypeScript or the JavaScript?
Yeah, if you want to install for Java, you have to import the jar files. So I think if you have worked with Selenium earlier, so for
Yeah.
Selenium, if you want to work with, we need to create a Maven project. Once you create the Maven project, then you will have set of jar files like you have POM dependency file, right? So you need to add that
Okay.
yeah that dependency jar to pom.xml.
So
So
installation will be different from language to language which we are choosing.
yes, so for JavaScript and TypeScript, this is how you can install. But if you want to work with Playwright with Java, so you need to create a Maven project. Then you will get a pom.xml. So go to the pom.xml. Then you can check for the Playwright dependency. I think we can search here. So Playwright dependency for Maven. So let's say, so now you will get a dependency. Yeah. So you will get a dependency file. So we need to go to that Maven file. Yeah, you see. So this is the dependency to use for the Java project. So you need to create a Maven project and go to the pom.xml. Then you have to add this dependency in the pom.xml. Then if you build the
Okay.
project, it will automatically download the respective jar files for the Playwright Java.
Okay.
Then,
Thank you.
yeah, the other parts are going to be the same because the methods and everything would be the same. But only the thing is, the if you work with Playwright with Java, so again the underlying server will be still written on JavaScript, but only they'll write a wrapper over the JavaScript to communicate with the server. But that details I'll show you in the coming sessions, like how those will be built and how it actually internally communicates. So yeah, this is all about the installation. So now once the installation is done, we got Playwright configuration file. So then we got one test folder. So this is the folder where your tests are located. And we got one default test folder here. So and one default test file here. So then you can see node modules folder. So in this folder, all the dependencies has been installed in these folders. And go to this GitHub workflows. You can see playwright.yml. This is because you have chosen that GitHub Actions files to be generated. So that's the reason we got this. So about this we'll discuss later. Once the Playwright sessions are done, we'll discuss more about how to integrate with CI/CD and GitHub Actions. So this is all about the installation, how the installation can be done. So now, if you observe here, there are a couple of commands that has been generated here. So you can see npx playwright test, npx playwright test UI, npx playwright test project Chromium. So these are all the different commands that you can use to run your test cases or to run test cases on a particular browser. So these are different commands. So anyway, in this session, we'll discuss about npx playwright test and npx playwright test project Chromium, and we can discuss about this and rest of the things debug, code gen, test UI. So this we will discuss later because these are more related to debugging, test UI, test debug, and npx playwright code gen. This is related to code generation. So anyway, we'll have a separate session on these three things like UI interactions, interactive mode, debug mode, and code gen. So today we'll discuss about what is npx playwright test, what it does, and what is the meaning of npx playwright test project Chromium. Then we'll discuss about npx playwright test example. Okay. So now, yeah. So now, first let us discuss about playwright configuration file. So which is playwright config.ts. So in this file, you can see in the export default define config. So there is a parameter test directory. And for this parameter, you can see a folder of tests has been given here. So the path of this test folder has been given here. So what is the meaning of this test directory? So if you want to tell to the playwright from where it has to find the test, then this is the directory where you need to give the path of the directory. So when I give test directory as a slash test, that means whenever you run the playwright test cases, then it is going to assume that all your test cases are available inside this test folder. So this folder name can be anything. So as of now, we got test folder. So we gave that name here. But if you want to rename this, you can still rename this and you can give the same name here. So simply it will identify for all your test cases in the directory that you have provided here. So right now we have provided slash test folder. So that means whenever you run the test cases, Playwright will try to search for the test cases in the test directory. So that is what the meaning of this test directory. So apart from this, I think there are so many parameters here. We are going to discuss this parameter as we progress with the sessions. So for now, today we'll discuss about what is test directory. So then we'll discuss about these projects. So before that, you can see in the test folder, there is one automation script that has been generated. So this is the sample automation script that has been generated along with the Playwright installation. So now let's say I wanted to run this test case. So how I can run that? So now you can see this command npx playwright test. So npx playwright test is a command so which is used to run all your test cases. So now I'll go here. So I'll give this command and npx playwright test. Let us run this. So as soon as you run this command, so it is going to search for the test cases in the test folder. So inside this folder, how many test cases you have, it will run all those test cases. So yeah, so it's running all those test cases. Yeah, we'll discuss like one by one. So like how it execute the test cases and everything. It's saying that it's running 6 test cases using 6 workers. So I think we might need to wait for some time. So it is running. Yeah, now you can see it has executed all the 6 test cases and to see the report. So it has once all the test cases were executed, it will generate an HTML report. So if you want to see the HTML report, you have to run this command. So npx playwright show report. So let us run this. Yeah, now we should I should open the report. Yeah, now you can see. Yeah. So it has ran total 6 test cases. But if I go and check in the file, you can see only there are 2 test cases. So actually we'll discuss about this test creation and everything in the coming sessions. For now, just assume that if you see this test keyword, this is one simple test case. Again, another test keyword I can see here. So that means there are 2 test cases in this example spec.ts. So as soon as I run this npx playwright test, it has ran these 2 test cases. But now you might get a question here. Why did we get 6 test cases here? Because whenever you see here, it is saying that 6 tests ran using 6 workers. Why I'm seeing 6 test cases here? The reason is, though you have 2 test cases, in the playwright configuration.ts, you can see a project's parameter. In this project parameter, you can see 3 projects: Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. So each of this project is one browser. So this is to run on Chrome browser, sorry, Chromium. This is on Firefox. This is on WebKit. So though you have 2 test cases, since in the Playwright configuration file, there are 3 projects configured. That means we have configured 3 different browsers. So each we have 2 test cases. The 2 test cases will be executed on 3 different browsers. So 3 into 2 will get 6 test cases. So that is the reason it is showing as 6 test cases. So it will execute on 3 different browsers: Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. So that is the reason you see in the report. So it has executed 6 test cases. So has title and get started link. These are only the 2 test cases that are available in the test file. But these 2 tests were executed on Chromium, then on Firefox, then on WebKit. So this is executed on 3 different browsers because in the Playwright configuration file, there are 3 projects. One is for Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. So that's the reason it executed on 3 different browsers. So 3 into 2 total, it has executed 6 test cases. But now every time I don't want to execute on 6 or 3 different browsers. Rather, I want to execute only on Chromium browser. So if that is the requirement, we can comment these two projects. Okay. So now I just commented this Firefox and WebKit. So let me run now. It will run only on two browsers. Sorry, only on two test cases, only on Chrome browser, Chromium browser. So you can say npx playwright test. So in the next session, we'll discuss in detail like how to create the test cases, what is the test, and everything we'll discuss in the next session in detail. Yeah, now I commented out Firefox and WebKit. So when I run this command npx playwright test, it ran only two test cases because we have only two test cases in example spec.ts. So now go and check the report. So npx playwright show report. So npx playwright show report, this is a command which is used to run the latest report, to show the latest report. So if I run this, now I should get a report and the report should have only two test cases. So hash title and get started link. So those two are executed on the Chromium browser. So this is the way how you can configure the browsers in the Playwright configuration file. And now if you observe here, so whenever I run the test cases, I'm not able to see any browser launch. Everything is running behind. So that is because by default, Playwright tests run in headless mode. So if you wanted to run the Playwright test in headed mode, you need to explicitly specify that. So now I would say npx Playwright test, then give a space hyphen hyphen headed. So if I run this, it is going to run your test cases in headed mode. Now you should see the browser launch and everything. So now we should launch the browser and it should show us the execution. Yeah, now you see the browser has been launched, but earlier it did not launch because by default it runs in headless mode. So since it ran in headless mode, so you don't see any browsers. I think now it executed all those two test cases. I think those are executing very quick. So that is why you are not able to see this URL loading and everything, but it is running very fast actually. Yeah. So now it's launching that website. Okay. Yeah. It ran all those two test cases. So if you want to see the browser execution, then you can give this npx playwright test headed. So headed means the tests are going to be run in headed mode. If you just specify npx playwright test, this will be run in headless mode. So you don't see the browser in action. So if you want to see the browser in action, just provide this hyphen hyphen headed. So this is how you can run the headed mode. And if you want to run all the test cases, you just provide npx playwright test. It will search for the test in the test folder and it run all the test cases. So now another thing is, so if playwright wants to recognize your test file, then here the text file should contain spec or test. Suppose if I provide here spec 1, now it will not execute any test cases. Let me run now. So I would say npx. Yeah, so I'm running this command npx playwright test. Let me run this. I think now it will say there is no test file. Yeah, if you see, it is giving an error saying that no test found. This is because so the playwright always search in the test folder with files which are ending with spec.ts or test.ts. So then those will be considered as test cases. So now let me copy this. So here I'll give test.ts. Instead of spec, I'll give test underscore, I will say 002. So now let me run this npx playwright test. Now it will run this example 002.test.ts. Because if playwright wants to recognize a file as a test, then the file either should contain test or spec. Then only it will identify them as test cases. So now if I run this, Oh, sorry. So let me remove this spec one. So now if I run this, it will identify two spec files or two test files, I can say. So now there are two to four test cases. So it will run four test cases. Yeah, now you can see it ran four test cases. So this is the way how you can run the test cases in Playwright using npx Playwright test. And if you want to see the report, you have to use npx Playwright show report. So now let's say here, I'm going to keep all the browsers because now we have disabled two browsers. So because of that, it is running only on one browser. But now I want to keep all the browsers here, but I want to run a specific browser. So instead of driving the configuration directly from the Playwright configuration file, we can also provide a command from the CLI. So now I would say npx Playwright test. So here you can see project equal to Chromium. So now if I run this, it should run on Chrome browser. Okay, so now we need to give headed. So now let me provide headed. So it should work on Chrome browser. It will run the test cases on Chrome browser. So there are two test files, total four test cases. All the four test cases, it should run on Chrome browser. So now it is launching the Chrome browser. It will execute all the four test cases on Chrome browser in parallel. So this is how you can execute on a particular browser. So though in the configuration file, multiple browsers are enabled, but if you wanted to run on a particular browser, you can pass this project parameter and pass the project name which you wanted to run. Suppose if I want to run on WebKit, let's say Safari browser I want to run. So what is the parameter? WebKit. So we need to provide WebKit here. So it should run on WebKit. So that is Safari. So yeah, it will launch and it will run. So it will run on WebKit. And now you can see it is running on WebKit. Okay. So this is how you can control on which project you wanted to run using this project. So now, so we have discussed about npx Playwright test. So this is used to run the test cases. Then we discussed about npx Playwright test hyphen hyphen project is equal to Chromium. So this project is nothing but on which project configuration you wanted to run. You have to provide that here. It will run on the corresponding project configuration. So then there is another thing, npx Playwright test example. So this is like if you want, so now when I run this npx Playwright test, what it is doing is inside the test folder, how many tests you have, it will run all those tests. Suppose let's say I don't want to run both the tests, rather I want to run only example spec.ts. If that is the case, you have to specify the path of the file. I would say npx Playwright test and provide the path of the file. I would say test slash example spec.ts. So it headed. So now it will run test from only example spec.ts. Okay, so it's giving an error saying that there are no tests found. npx Playwright test example spec.ts. Okay, so let us run this. Yeah, I think it should run this. So npx Playwright test and test folder. I think spec.ts. I think now it should run. I think it's giving an error. So npx playwright test. So I think we need to give the file name, test file name. I think it should run. Okay, I'll try this. So example spec.ts. We can try other one. It's giving some error. Let me check what is the error. Right. Show report. Yeah, here you just need to give the path of the file. So arguments are regular expressions to match the test path. We need to escape symbol like okay. I think I need to check because it should run here. Because this is the standard command, we need to give npx playwright test and we need to provide the path of the file which you wanted to run. So this is available in the test folder and straight away we have this example spec.ts. That is what this command says, run the test in a specific file. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think this is different. So this is to run the test in a specific file. Okay, I think this is the same command. So let me try again. So npx playwright test. So I'll directly give the, yeah, instead of that, let me give the file name directly. Now it's identifying. Yeah, now it is running. Yeah. So I think we don't need to give the complete path. Instead of that, because anyway it is directly searching in the test folder. So it is just asking the file name. So npx playwright test, just give the file name here. Yeah, so now it has identified all the tests in example spec.ts. Since we have enabled three different browsers, so 2 into 3, 6 test case it has run. So this is how you can run a specific test file. So simply pass the file name. So instead of, we should not pass the complete path. Yeah, this is done. And next we discussed about showing the report. npx playwright show report that is going to open the report. So these are the basic commands like how you run the test case in Playwright, how to run on a particular browser, how to run a particular test case. I think still there are many options. We'll get to know about them as we progress with these sessions. So anyway, for now, these are the main command that we need as part of our regular sessions. So after this, let us discuss what are the Playwright locators. Because generally, if you go to any website, so I'll go to this saucedemo.com. So this is the sauce demo is a website. Now I want to enter username or I want to enter password or click on login. So if you take any element on this, everything is a web element. So that can be anything. That can be an image, that can be a button, or that can be a text, or that can be a link. Anything that you see on a web page is called a web element. So in this case, this Swag Labs, this is a web element. This username is a web element, password is a web element, login, everything is a web element. So now, suppose if I want to identify this element, because as a human, I'm able to see this and I can enter the data here. But how Playwright can identify this? So not only Playwright, if you take any web automation tool like Selenium or Playwright or Tosca, anything, there should be some way to identify the elements. There should be some way to identify these fields or web elements. So how to identify these elements? So these elements can be identified by using the properties of the web element. So now this Swag Labs, this field might have some properties. In the same way, this username might have some properties, password, login, like this. If we take any web element, each and every web element will have some kind of properties by using which you can identify that web element. So now, how to identify these web element, the properties? So if you want to identify the properties, you can go to either Chrome or Edge or any Firefox, right click, go to click on inspect. So if you click on inspect, you can see a developer tool has been opened here. If you are opening this in Chrome, this is called Chrome developer tool. If you are opening in Edge, it is a developer tool in Edge browser. So now left side you see an arrow, click on this and highlight the element for which you want to identify the locators. Click on this. So if I click on this, you can see there are multiple properties available for this element. So when you click on this, you can see the respective element will be highlighted in the DOM. This is called DOM, document object model. So this structure, page structure is called document object model. So this DOM has the properties. You can see here, this is called tag name. Class is one attribute. Placeholder is an attribute. Type is an attribute. Data text, ID, name, autocorrect. All these are called the attributes of a web element. So now I'll go on highlight this element. That is Swag Labs. If I come down here, this has a tag div. It has only one attribute class. And it has another value that is a text value swag labs. So like that, if you take any web element, each web element will have some kind of attributes or properties. So if you wanted to identify those web elements, we can make use of these properties to identify the web element. So now in Playwright, it supports following locators. So Playwright support the following locators like get by role, get by text, get by label, get by placeholder, get by alt text, title and text ID. So these are the different attributes or locators that Playwright supports. So these are specific to Playwright. Apart from this, Playwright also supports CSS and XPath. So now how to identify these attributes? So get by role we'll discuss tomorrow. For now, let us see how to identify the text, how to identify the label, placeholder, alt text, title and text ID. So what is mean by get text? Get by text means suppose if I see here swag lab, this is the text. If I highlight this element, now you see in between the tags, you can see the text. This is called text of the element. So in this case, Swag Labs is the text. Again, let me identify this login button. So now this login button doesn't have any text here because between the tags, whatever the data you see, that is called the text. So this login button doesn't have any text. So now let me open this. I have created one HTML page which contains all the locators. So now highlight this. Yeah, now highlight this element, your subscription. If you see here, this is a paragraph. This is also a text. Between the tags, whatever you see, that is called text. So your subscription will expire in. This is a text. Again, this is a paragraph. Whatever the data you see inside this is the text. Again, this is the text. So if you want to use get by text locator, you have to provide this text. So whatever the text you see here, this is called the text element. You need to use this text if you want to identify the element. So that is how you can use get by text. Then we have get by label. So get by label means, so anyway, in the next session, we'll discuss in detail with the help of some programs. For now, I'm just explaining at high level what is get by text, what is get by label, what is get by placeholder. Okay. So get by label means, suppose if I want to identify this username field, you can see there is a tag label and below that you can see username with the input tag. So this is the label. So if you want to identify an element using the label, there should be a label tag. So you have to say get by label. What is the label text? Username. So then you have to pass like this. Get by label. What is the label text? Username. So if I provide like this, it is going to identify this element. Okay. So it will identify the element, and based on your requirement, you can perform the actions on the element. So that is how you can use the get by label. So then there is get by placeholder. So now if I identify this username, you can see what are the properties available for this. It has a class placeholder. There is a placeholder text. So if you wanted to use get by placeholder, then use this text. So if I say get by placeholder of username, so it will identify this username field. Again, if I go to the password, you can see here, what does it has? Placeholder text is password. So you can give get by placeholder password. So it will identify this password field. So that is how you can use get by text. Get by text means you have to provide the visible text. So get by placeholder means for every element, like generally one more thing. So all these properties may or may not exist for all the elements. So if the property exists, you can use that. If this property doesn't exist, then you can go for the alternative way of finding the other properties. So here, if I observe Swag Labs, it doesn't have any label, or it doesn't have any other properties. So I can directly use this text. It doesn't have placeholder. Since there is no placeholder, you can go and use get by text. And for this username, there is a placeholder text. So I can use this placeholder. Okay. So now, what is the other property? Get by alt text. So generally this alt text is used for images. So if you want to identify an image, for that there will be alt text. Suppose let me go to this website. Form to QA. Okay. Yeah, not this one. If you go to any website, right? So you can see, yeah, let me check here. This is a playwright image. So let me identify that, highlight that element. Yeah. So now this is the image actually. For this image, you see there is a alt property, ALT property, and it has a playwright logo. This is the name of the value of alt property. So generally this alt property exists for the images. So if you want to identify an image using the alt text, you have to use get by alt text and provide this alt text. So this image will be identified. So the alt text property is used for images. Again, if you see here, I think, yeah. So this is one image. If you highlight this, it has a primary user avatar. This is the alt text of this image. Adjacent to that, secondary user avatar. This is the alt text. So to identify these images, I can use get by alt text and pass this value. It will identify the respective element. So then get by title. So yeah, get by title means you will see a title attribute. So I'm checking this tick mark. If I highlight this, you can see here there is a property title cloud synchronized. So that means if I want to identify this web element, I can say get by title and pass this title. It will identify this element. The same way, hover for status. It has title last updated 2 minutes ago. So now I can use get by title, provide this hover for status. Then this element will be identified. Okay. So this way you can use get by title to identify the elements. Then there is another property, get by text ID. So get by text ID means, so now suppose, yeah, I'll identify this element. It should have data text ID. I think, okay, here we don't have. So let me identify this element. Highlight this. Yeah, here you have data hyphen test, right? Instead of data hyphen test, you will see data hyphen test ID. If you see data hyphen test ID, then you can use this attribute get by test ID. So even we can rename this test ID that I will show you in the tomorrow session. And so these are the playwright locators: get by text, get by label, get by placeholder, get by alt text, get by title, and get by test ID, and get by role. So these are all called the playwright locators. These are the first priority. So if your element contains any of these properties, we have to go and use them. And suppose let's say if there are no properties with these values, like suppose you are not able to identify an element using text or label placeholder, all text or title or test ID, then I will go for CSS or XPath. So the playwright inbuilt locators are the first priority. If these locators are not available, go and use CSS. Even CSS is also not available, then go for XPath. So yeah, let me open this. So we have the priority, order of the priority for those elements. So let us see what are the priority locators. So which locator is first priority, then which locator. So yeah, let me open this. Yeah, so now, yeah, you can see here. Yeah, this is the order of priority. First, we need to use get by role. So if the get by role is not available, go and use get by label or placeholder. Then get by text. Then get by title. Then get by tester. So if any of these properties are not available, then you can use the CSS. And even if you are not able to construct CSS, go and use XPath. So in the tomorrow session, we'll discuss in detail like how to evaluate this get by role. After that, we'll discuss about how to create CSS or XPath. So once these are done, we'll jump to the automation, writing the automation test cases using Playwright.